Hey, how's it going YouTube? I'm Landon and welcome back to another most amazing top 10 video. This top 10 is the longest prison sentences served by innocent men. But first, let me ask you this. What should happen to these innocent people once they are proven to be innocent and they're released from prison? And also, what top 10 do you guys want to see next? So getting right into it, in at number... we have James Joseph Richardson, who served 21 years. So he was born in 1935, and he was known for wrongly being convicted for the murder of his 7 children by using organic phosphate pesticide marathon in 1967. At the time, he was living in Florida, where all these murders happened. The first day of being poisoned, 6 of his children, ages 4 to 8 years old, passed away, and then the next day, his other 2 children died. So instead of being able to mourn their death, he was locked away as the prime suspect. James was sentenced to die by the court, and he was on death row for 5 years. In 1972, Florida's death penalty changed, taking him off death row, and instead he was just serving a normal sentence. So he was eligible for parole in 1993. But in 1989, new evidence came forth, and this freed James of any wrongdoing. He was released and awarded $1.2 million. Now at number 9, we have Darrell Burton, who served 24 years. He was put in jail for murder back in 1985. There was a shooting at a gas station. He was the prime suspect, so his sentence was 50 years. There was claims saying that police fabricated the investigation. The night of the killing, there was an eyewitness that told police that they saw a light-skinned black man no taller than 5 foot 5 inches tall, and he was the shooter. Well, Darrell, he's a 5 foot 10 inch dark black guy, so how is he the suspect? So the claim against Darrell had no physical evidence linking him to this murder, and there was no weapon ever recovered. In court, his lawyers was able to get him death by incarceration instead of death by lethal injection. Well, in 2008, evidence suggested that he was the wrong man, and we need to clear this guy right away. So he was released, and his release date was actually the exact same day Barack Obama signed in to become the US president. Moving on to number 8. We have Stephen Phillips, and he served 25 years in prison, and he was sentenced away for rape. Back in 1982, him and his wife started a roofing business, and they were expecting their first child. Stephen was described as a really brilliant man, but their family ended that year. Stephen was the prime suspect for rape, and it wasn't just one person, it was a string of crimes. He had 2 trials back in 1982 and 1983. In court, he was forced to plead guilty on the charges, and that was to prevent a third trial, which was potentially going to get him locked away for life. So he tried to take a lesser sentence. So the next decade passed, and his wife and his child has been visiting him in jail. But in 1992, it just became too much, and they got a divorce. It wasn't working out. Well, 24 years later, when DNA became available, the DNA during that crime tested positive to another man. And this was the guy that actually did the raping. It wasn't Stephen, although he pleaded guilty to this crime that he did not do many years ago. So in 2009, he was released from jail as an innocent man. He was awarded $6 million, but now his ex-wife from 17 years ago, who got divorced, thinks that she's entitled to some of this money. So now she's suing him for $4 million, and I think this is just the saddest thing ever. This man deserves that money. Charles Chapman, who served 27 years, comes in at number 7. He was convicted in 1981 and was sentenced to jail for 99 years. His charge was aggravated rape. Charles was accused of going inside a 52-year-old woman's house, taking off her clothes, tying her down with a scarf, and then raping her. And then he stole $15 in cash. The 52-year-old described the suspect as an African American. Charles Chapman was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. He was released in 2008 when DNA proved that it wasn't him. They have had the wrong man behind bars for the past 27 years. This man's life was totally robbed from him. And you know what? It was mainly because he was black. Charles became the 15th inmate from Dallas County since 2001 to be exonerated by DNA testing. Now we have William Dillon, who also served 27 years in prison. He comes in at number 6. William was a young man who was about to sign a professional baseball deal to play in the major leagues back in 1981. But he was framed for a gruesome murder of a gay man on a Florida beach. He was only 21 years old at the time, and he had everything to live for. He was going to be a pitcher making millions of dollars. It seemed to be a common pattern, but DNA testings proved him innocent. They then identified William as the wrong guy. So in 2008, he was released on a $100,000 bond. But a few years later, in 2012, he was granted a full pardon by the state of Florida. Since his release, he has gone on to sing a very emotional national anthem at a baseball game. Okay, moving in to number Michael Greene, he's another man who served 27 years. And again, the trend continues. He was in jail for rape back in 1983. He was 18 years old at the time. He was given 75 years in prison. Well, finally, after 27 years, he has been released. And he was awarded $2.2 million in compensation payments from the state of Texas. But to receive this, he would have to waive the right to sue the state for falsely imprisoning him. Michael, since his release, has had trouble sleeping. He has spent almost 3 decades in prison thinking, why was he in there for so long? He also said this money is absolutely nothing when you can compare it to the time that he spent with mental torture and physical abuse. Number 4. Glen Ford, and he served 30 years. He was in jail for the murder of an older white man, and he owned a jewelry and watch repair shop. So the crime was pinned on Glen. At this time, he just had a son. Now at the age of 64 years old, he was proven innocent. When he got out of jail, there was a lot of reporters asking him, do you feel any resentment? He said, yes, because I've been locked up for many years for something that I didn't do. I can't go back to the time I was in my 30s and do the things that I would have done back then. He is now a grandpa and he's lost his whole life. Really sad story, but someone who spent even more time, Cornelius Dupree Jr. at 30 years. Same amount of years as the other guy, but this guy spent a little bit more months. So he comes in at number 3. In 1979, he was just 20 years old when he was in jail for a robbery case that turned into a rape case. So he was sentenced to wait to 75 years in prison. And the whole time he was there, he maintained his innocence, even refusing parole, because then he would have to be registered as a sex offender for the rest of his life. Well, in 2011, he was exonerated for any wrongdoing. So he was entitled to $80,000 for every year that he spent in jail, which was many. So when you add that all up, that's about $2.4 million, plus a lifetime of annuity, which was more fixed payments to him for the rest of his life. And you know what? It's kind of stupid how he's awarded so much money by the state, but once he receives this money, he has to claim it as an income, and the state is just going to take money away from him for taxes. In at number 2, we have James Bain, and he served 35 years. He is one of the most positive people in life, even after everything that he went through. He was wrongly convicted of breaking and entering and kidnapping and rape, and this is in 1974. James was sentenced to life in prison. The next 35 years, he was transferred around between 6 different prisons across the state of Florida. When he was released, there was camera crews everywhere and also thousands of people who believed in his story. He now wears his favorite t-shirt that says, "Not guilty." When he got out, he received $1.7 in compensation. Finally, at number 1, it's time to reveal the longest prison sentence ever served by an innocent person. So in at number 1, we have Lewis Taylor, and he served 42 years. In 1970, there was an arson attack on a hotel that killed 29 people. At just 16 years old at that time, Lewis was blamed for this crime. He was a black teenager who entered a courtroom with all white jury members. And this is at a time period where racism was like really up there. Lewis was sentenced to 28 consecutive life sentences. The whole time he maintained his innocence and was claimed he was wrongly convicted. And he said police failed to investigate other suspects that night. Now at the age of 59 years old, new evidence came forth and he walked out of prison as a free man. So on the night back in 1970, it was not only proven that he didn't light that hotel on fire, but that night he was actually saving people from the hotel. He was getting people out of the fire. So for 42 years, the state has locked up a hero. Really sad justice system. Well, there you guys have it. That was the top 10 longest jail sentences served by innocent people. Don't forget to tell me, what do you guys think should be awarded to these men when they get released? I mean, their whole lives were lost due to false evidence. And also, what do you guys think should be the next most amazing top 10 video? Okay, I'll see you guys in the next video. So what did you all think? Did you like this video? Did you guys get as emotional as I did? I was really upset hearing about all these long life sentences. I mean, I would go absolutely nuts, crazy, out of my mind. Well, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe because new videos coming out next week.